You're not going to believe what just happened in the Australian Senate. It started as a routine sitting. It ended with papers being ripped apart, accusations flying across the chamber, senators laughing in disbelief, and one constitutional clause detonating like a political landmine. The question is simple. Was Pauline Hanson exposing a serious eligibility issue, or was this something far more explosive? Stay with me, because what happened next changed the entire energy of the room. And before we dive in, if you care about holding politicians accountable, no matter what party they're from, hit subscribe right now. It doesn't cost you a cent, but it tells YouTube this kind of reporting matters. Now, let's break this down.
Pauline Hanson stood up and tabled documents, not a speech, not a rant, documents. Her claim? There were serious constitutional questions about whether Senator Fatima Payman was eligible to sit in Parliament under Section 44 of the Australian Constitution. Sounds technical, sounds boring. It wasn't, because the second those documents hit the table, the atmosphere flipped. Fatima Payman fired back immediately. She accused Hanson of targeting her unfairly, of playing politics, of fueling something deeper. Then the tension snapped. Green Senator Lydia Thorpe ripped up Hanson's motion and threw it in the chamber, on camera. Gasps, shouting, audible laughter from parts of the Senate. This wasn't quiet parliamentary debate. This was raw political theatre. And if you've watched this far, drop a comment and tell me, do you think that moment crossed the line? Because here's what most people missed. This wasn't just about payment. It was about a rule that has already destroyed careers.
3 words that have ended political careers. Back in 2017, Australia went through what became known as the citizenship crisis. Politicians from multiple parties, Nationals, Greens, One Nation, were forced out because they unknowingly held dual citizenship. Didn't matter if it was an accident, didn't matter if they didn't even know. If you were technically a citizen of another country, you were out. High Court, disqualification, career paused. Barnaby Joyce, Malcolm Roberts, others, gone. So when Hanson says the same rules must apply to everyone, she's pointing at precedent. Her argument is simple. If others had to prove their eligibility, why not Payman? But here's where things get complicated, because Fatima Payman's story isn't like the others, and this is where the narrative splits in two. Before we continue, subscribe if you want politics explained without the fluff. We cut straight to the core. Now, here's the other side. Fatima Payman wasn't just another senator. She was a symbol. Born in Afghanistan, arrived in Australia as a refugee, became one of the youngest senators in the country, the first hijab-wearing woman in the Senate. Her story represented modern Australia, diversity, migration, opportunity. That's why supporters say questioning her eligibility feels different. They argue that renouncing citizenship from a war-torn country isn't as simple as filling out a form. They say context matters. They say history matters. And they say targeting her specifically sends a message. But here's where the tension escalates, because before this Senate explosion, Payman had already shaken the political system, and that's where the pressure really started building. If you've made it this far, type Section 44 in the comments. I want to see who's still locked in, because this next part changes everything.
Fatima Payman didn't just face opposition from the right, she defied her own party. She crossed the floor over foreign policy disagreements, publicly. That's political suicide in Canberra. Soon after, she left the Labor Party and moved to the crossbench. And here's the brutal reality of politics. Once you leave party protection, you stand alone. No shield, no coordinated defence, no backup. That's when scrutiny intensifies. That's when every document matters. And that's when Hanson moved. Supporters say it was coincidence. Critics say it was calculated timing. Either way, the Senate chamber became the battleground. And what happened next is why this story exploded online. Voices rose, accusations flew. Some senators laughed, Others shouted. Thorpe's dramatic gesture was replayed across social media within minutes. Clips circulated with captions claiming Hanson had exposed something major. Others claimed it was political harassment dressed as accountability. Two completely different narratives, same footage. This is modern politics. And if you're watching from outside Australia, comment your country below. I'm curious how this looks internationally, because what's really happening here isn't just about paperwork, it's about power.
This clash represents something bigger. On one side, strict constitutional literalism. The law is the law, no exceptions. On the other, contextual justice. History matters, circumstances matter. Layered on top of that, culture wars, immigration debates, free speech battles. Pauline Hanson is currently appealing a separate legal case involving controversial remarks, so accusations of racism hit within an already heated legal backdrop. Fatima Payman represents a newer progressive political wave. The Greens see her as part of that broader movement. Every word in that chamber carried more weight because of this background tension. This wasn't just eligibility, it was ideology colliding in real time. And if you appreciate deep dives like this, subscribe. It costs nothing, but it keeps this channel alive. Now here's the real question. What happens next? If the eligibility issue proceeds further, it could move into formal legal review. If it fizzles out, political damage still remains. Payman now faces continued scrutiny. Hanson strengthens her image among supporters who believe she stands firm on constitutional rules. The Greens double down on defending what they see as unfair targeting. Meanwhile, public trust in Parliament takes another hit because to everyday Australians watching this, it looks chaotic, messy, explosive, and far from the calm House of Review they were promised. But here's the twist most analysts aren't saying out loud. Moments like this energize bases, they polarize audiences, they drive clicks, they reshape careers, and sometimes they redefine political narratives. If you've watched this entire breakdown, comment accountability below. I want to see who made it to the end. One constitutional clause from over a century ago just triggered one of the most dramatic Senate moments in recent memory. Was it accountability? Was it political theatre? Was it both? That depends on where you stand. But one thing is certain. Australian politics isn't slowing down, and neither are we. If you want sharp, fast, no-fluff political breakdowns, subscribe right now. It doesn't cost you anything, but it pushes this content to more viewers. Hit like if you believe rules should apply equally. Share this with someone who needs to see both sides. And tell me below, was this a fair constitutional question or a political ambush? Because the next chapter in this story is still unfolding, and we'll be here when it does.